Good evening, everyone. I hope you all are enjoying the hackathon, and we are back with another workshop. We have with us our speaker, Abhirami Sukumaran. She is a developer advocate at Google, and this workshop has been done by Hack4Bengal 2.0. Moving on, the topic for today's session is hands-on data to AI with Google Cloud. A little bit intro about our speaker. Abhirami Sukumaran, a distinguished developer advocate at Google with specializing in Google Cloud databases, data, AI/ML, and serverless areas. With 17 years of hands-on experience in application development and leadership roles, Abhirami brings a wealth of expertise to our workshop on Google Cloud. Abhirami's impressive background includes doctorate in business administration with a specialization in machine learning. As a developer advocate at Google, Abhirami's mission is to foster innovation and empower developers and startups with cutting-edge technology for business transformation. Join us for an enlightening session with Abhirami Sukumaran on the topic hands-on data to AI with Google Cloud. Our speaker is already there with us. Abhirami, I hope you are doing well.
Good. I'm good. Thank you. Thanks for having me on board.
Right.
Can you hear
Okay,
me?
so the stage is all yours. You can now move on with your workshop.
Cool. Before that, can I also send the link to the poll that I was talking about?
Yeah, sure.
So before we get started, can I have the audience just click that or submit your response there? We have, it's just to understand if the hackathon or these sessions are the first time you're getting on board with Google Cloud. So when you're saying first time, I meant the whole hackathon series. Is this first time for you on Google Cloud, not particular to my session? I just wanted to understand the whole hackathon, if it's the first time on Google Cloud or not. So that's why. Please click that Slido link and choose the one that's appropriate to you. If it's first time hands-on on Google Cloud Console, or have done basic to medium hands-on in GCP, or you're an expert in GCP hands-on. So one of those three, just let me know. Cool. I'll give a minute because I know there is a lag. Tushar, is anyone able to vote? Did you try that?
Yeah, I have shared the link in the comment section. People can
Okay.
interact with the links.
Okay. Okay. Cool. I'll just give 2 more minutes before we get started. Meanwhile, you can also share the other Code Lab links as well. I'll tell you. So, in today's session, as you're doing this poll, I'll just walk you through what we're going to do. I see only one in the vote that you've provided. Anyway, what we're going to cover today is, since it's a hackathon setup, I don't want you to like sit through some presentations or talk through some basic concepts or anything foundation or even advanced for that matter. I want to get you started with something that you can take back to the presentation. I know that we have, you want to take your time back and get back hands-on to your hackathon. So I'm going to give you a few exercises or code labs. We'll walk through them. We'll do some stuff hands-on. So you're empowered to take some ideas, take some concepts here and there, and put the pieces together. So obviously, the first thing is storage. We are going to talk about BigQuery, how you can quickly store, quickly write some queries, analyze, do some basic analytics, and also perform ML using BigQuery, only using SQL queries. And then we'll also do the same exercise with a little bit of Vertex AI integration, where we'll just talk about how to store the data in BigQuery, extract the data, and do some ML, which is auto ML in Vertex AI. The first thing that we did was custom ML. It's not auto ML in BigQuery with SQL. The second thing is how to do the same exercise in Vertex AI. So quickly we'll finish these two. And lastly, I'll also show how to deploy us, how to write a simple cloud function either it's in whether it's in Java or in Python, or if your preferred language of choice is Node, then either that or whichever one you want to script in, how to quickly do that and run it and deploy your program, a single page application in Cloud Function and get it deployed in the cloud serverlessly. And if you're interested, we can also see the same thing in Cloud Run. So basically, these are the things that I want to cover in today's session. So you can take this back to your hackathon ideas. Of course, if you're interested in seeing like what else are there, I'll definitely walk you through the consoles, show you some other core services that you may be interested in, or you can add value with your ideas. Of course, with Gen AI stuff and how to use the Palm API to build, or Vertex AI's Palm API to build some solutions. So all those things we can do. All right, does that sound good for everybody? All right. Um, so I'm going to. Is there anything in comment section? No, I don't see anything. So I'm going to share the first code lab that we'll be doing today. Um, It would really help if you all can submit the poll. The reason I'm asking is I want to know what is the ratio between like first time on Google Cloud, because I will know whether to explain the console or not, or to just jump into the services that we are focusing on. So that's why I'm insisting on that. All right. So let me give the link to the first code lab, movie score prediction with BQML, only using SQL. So in this, we'll see how to process data that lives in a CSV, how to bring that inside Google Cloud Storage. And in this case, we'll use a data warehouse as storage. We'll use BigQuery, and then we'll do the next few steps to do the classification. All right. So I've pinged the link. Tushar, I'll give you a few seconds so you can copy and paste that into the comments. And yeah, that's helpful. All right. So I'll also present my screen. All right, I'm presenting my screen. I have so before we go into starting the code lab, one more thing I want to share with you all is the Code Vipassana. Sorry, Code Vipassana's link for generating Google Cloud credits. So I'm going to give you the GCP credits link. This is probably something that will allow you to use the same thing in your hackathon as well. It will assign $5 without even having to sign into Google Cloud with your credit card or anything. If you have already signed into Google Cloud use and registered with a registered billing account, I don't think you need this. But if you have not done that, and if you have not signed into Google Cloud yet, please feel free to use this. The link I've provided in private chat. You'll be provided the link as well. It's gcpcredits.com/codevipa. It'll only be valid for your hackathon time, and you can definitely use those links for the $5 for your sessions for your hackathon project. So in today's session, please stop at the point that I'm asking you to stop, because I don't want you to spend any amount of the $5 credit in the hands-on session today, because I want you to save the credits for your hackathon project. So that's why please stop where I ask you to, but otherwise we should be good to go. All right. So I hope you all have received the credits. You all have received the first code lab, and I'm going to show you what the first code lab looks like. All right. Movie rating prediction with only using SQL queries with BQML. So I hope you all can see my screen. This is the code lab, and here in the introduction, I already told you we are going to do this movie rating prediction. And what is movie rating? It's the IMDb rating on a scale of 1 to 10. We want to predict if the movie has been accepted by people on a scale of 1 to 10. What is the rating? So that is the rating we are going to predict. So in order to do that, I'm going to demonstrate a classification model. The question here is about, or the importance, the focus here is about only using queries and you storing the data in BigQuery. How can you create your ML model, and how can you deploy it not the focus is not specifically on the parameters or the attributes or the model itself. Stay focused on the how to part rather than what we are using as the details of the model itself. Okay. And another thing is, we will be, yeah, you I've already given you the link, and we'll be deploying the model in Vertex AI model registry. So those are the things in the introduction section. Moving on. So now that you have the $5 credit link, so if you click the link, you should automatically be seeing the console.cloud.google.com page, and you should see your $5 credit added. And once it's added, you should be able to see the console page like this, and you should be able to see on the top left corner the project ID and the project name. And on the right side, if you click that, you should see the project ID. If it is not already there, it's not a problem. Click new project on the top and provide a project name. It can be anything. You can say movies project or my project one or hackathon hack for Bengal project or whatever it is you want to provide. Keep a project name. Let the default value stay for organization and location, and hit create. That's it. You should be all set. All right. So those are the preliminary stages. And the next step is to enable the APIs that we are going to use in this hands-on. So, like I said, I already told you we are going to predict the movie score rating. We are going to predict the movie score or movie rating for a given movie, and we're going to use data that is publicly available. And I've already made the clean the data and made it available for you. So we'll go into that later. But before that, like I said before, we are going to use BigQuery. We are going to use some of the other dependencies and services like Cloud Shell commands in order to communicate with BigQuery and all that. But before that, you have to enable certain APIs, right? So for that, on the search, if you have not already used Google Cloud, if you have already enabled them, then no problem. You don't have to do it again. On the search bar, type BigQuery, and you should be able to see the option that comes up under BigQuery. Under the search results, you should see BigQuery data warehouse slash analytics. Choose that. Once you choose that, if the API is not already enabled, it will ask you to enable the API. Go ahead and enable it. In my case, it's already enabled, so you're not seeing it. In your case, if you've not enabled it before, so it'll ask you to enable it. Do that. It's straightforward. Just follow the instructions and click enable API. That's it. Once it is enabled, on the left side, you should see the Explorer pane where you should see your project name. And on the right side, you should see the SQL workspace where you'll write your queries, view the object structure and all that, right? So you have two panes that you're seeing. What we're going to do now is you can open another tab or the Google Cloud Console in another tab, or you can right click here on Google Cloud and just say open it in a new tab and go to that one. And we're going to do the activate the Cloud Shell terminal as well. So here on top right corner, you see a small box, and within that you see right arrow followed by an underscore. So if you click that, it will activate your Cloud Shell. So what is Cloud Shell? Cloud Shell is something that allows you to communicate with the Google Cloud services using commands, using some commands. In this case, we'll be using a lot of Cloud Shell commands that are specific to BigQuery, because we're going to use BigQuery as a service in the first exercise to communicate with Google Cloud. All right. So we have activated the Cloud Shell. And once you activate Cloud Shell, it will allocate a little bit of space and resources for you in as Google Cloud Shell machine. You should be able to see the terminal in the bottom part of your screen. Just drag and expand it to fill the screen so you have a good view of what you're doing. And if you open editor, you have to open it in another. If you want to open editor, you can open it in another tab. Don't open in the same tab because then it will override the terminal. So leave it as such. All right. So we have the prerequisites ready now. We have activated Cloud Shell. Everything is done. Make sure your terminal is prompting with your project ID, right? If that is not there, if that is not the case, then use the gcloud command, gcloud config set project, followed by project ID right here, and press enter. It should automatically show your project ID. So the text that is showing up right here is not the project ID, it's the project name. Project ID will appear if you click that. On the right, you see the ID. So that's the project ID. All right, so copy that. Now we'll move on to the next steps, which is preparing training data for this exercise. So data is already ready. Like I already said, I have taken publicly available data from multiple resources and I've compiled it in one CSV. and I've uploaded it in my GitHub repository. Right click and see the repository if you want. This is what the data looks like, but we are not required to download the file because we are going to do that not programmatically, but using gcloud cloud shell command in the next step, right? So you don't have to download the file as it is. So going to the next step. So I already told you we are going to store the data using Google Cloud's BigQuery, Google Cloud's data warehouse, BigQuery. So in order to store, you need to create the container, right? And when I say container, it's not the application programming container. I'm talking about the database. In BigQuery terms, it's called data set. You need inside BigQuery, inside your project, you should create the data set. And under the data set, you need to create a table. And under the table, you need to create the data, right? So I have the data in CSV, it's living in my GitHub repo. Now I have to bring the CSV into my Cloud Shell machine that has been allocated in the Cloud Shell part for me. And I'll take the data from the CSV. And on the other hand, in BigQuery, I will create my data set, I'll create my table, and I'll load the CSV data using one command into the table that I'm going to create in BigQuery. All of this in a few commands in the Cloud Shell. Okay, so let's begin. The first step is creating the BigQuery dataset. So what is the command for that? bqmk hyphen hyphen location equal to us hyphen central 1 movies. So instead of location, I'm going to use us hyphen central 1. So I'll give you the link to that in the chat. Sorry, not link. I'll give you the text with the replace text, which you can run. Make sure you're in the code lab. You can copy, or you can copy the specific command from the chat. I've pasted this in private chat. So I'm going to run this in my Cloud Shell terminal. In my case, I already have this data set. So I'm going to create a different data set with the name movies underscore H4B, Hack4Bengal. All right. And I hit enter. It's asking me to authorize. And the data set has been successfully created. So I'm going to pause for a few seconds here. I'll go back here to see, to show you what we have done. We have completed creating the data set. You can also do it programmatically, or you can also do it through the console, but I chose to do using Cloud Shell commands. Now, before moving on to the next step, that is loading the data, I want to give you a few seconds to make sure you're all on board and you're able to create the data set. All right. So the next step is we have the CSV ready. We have to take that from the repository and load it into a folder in our specific Cloud Shell machine, right? So how do we do that? Git clone, and the repository link is available in the code lab itself. So I'm going to copy the repository link and I'll type the command. I'll first type it in the chat and then I'll type it in my Cloud Shell terminal. So git clone repository link. You can just save it in your Cloud Shell machine like that itself, or you can save it under a specific project name, movie underscores or movie hyphen score. All right. So I have pasted that for you. Or you don't even have to do this. You can just do git clone repository. You don't have to store it in a folder. Just write this. Tushar, you can ignore the second last command. Just copy this one and paste it in the comment section. Cool. Now I'm going to run this from my Cloud Shell terminal. Git clone. I'll take it from here. And since I already have that folder created, I am creating another one anyway, but don't worry about it. I have created a folder called movie score H4B. You don't have to. You can just run the command that I've provided in the chat. And my file is uploaded, and so should yours. All right. So now we have the file created. We have the data loaded. We have not loaded the data. We just have the file downloaded in your Cloud Shell machine. Instead of downloading it to your local, you have downloaded it into your Cloud Shell machine. Now the next step is taking the data from the file and loading it into the BigQuery dataset that we just created. So for that, copy this command from the code lab. I'll just paste this command in the chat as well. All right, so there should be no change for you. Just run this as it is. I'm going to make a few changes because in my case, I have changed a few things. Change the data set name and all. That's it. So I'm going to run this in my Cloud Shell terminal. But before that, before running it in Cloud Shell terminal, sorry, I forgot to mention one step. It will fail because the file doesn't exist. You have to navigate to that folder. You have to go to the directory, right? Change directory, movies, movie hyphen score, because you just created that. If you remember, you have git cloned, right? We have git cloned the file into movie and hyphen score. So now you have to navigate to the directory and then do this, because otherwise it won't be able to find that particular file. So cd movie hyphen score in your case. Okay. So now I'll paste this command bq load. So it will take the data from the file and it will load it into the BigQuery dataset that I've created by creating a table as well. So what is this BQ load command? So going back to the code lab, this BQ load command, what does it do? It actually says that the source format is a CSV file and the leading rows are headers, so skip it. And then we are providing the dataset name where the table lives, and the table name, this is the name that you're providing for the first time. You're creating a name in this table because it doesn't exist, right? So you're creating the table named movies underscore score in the dataset named movies, and you're giving the name of the CSV which you cloned from this GitHub repository, and you're providing the column names that you want copied over into the BigQuery dataset table, not dataset, BigQuery table, and the data type of those columns. So you're specifying all that. That's what we're doing. And then upload is complete. So in your case also, upload should be complete. So we have completed, literally, we have completed all the steps that are part of storage. Now let's validate if the data has been, if the data set is created, table is created, and data has been loaded. So how do we do that? You can also write queries from BigQuery command by using that BQ prefixed query like this. But I'm just going to show you in console as well how you can do it. So do one thing, first verify if dataset is created, go to BigQuery console, expand your project name, project ID, and scroll down to see if the movies dataset that you just created is created here. It is. So I'm going to click the table name and I can see the schema. Now I'll do this compose new query. I'll click the plus sign. It opens compose new query. So I'm just going to do select stuff from movies. In your case, it's just movies. In my case, it's movies underscore H4B dot movies underscore score. That's the name of your table, right? And I'm doing limit one. I don't want to query the whole table. I just want to query one row to make sure the data has been created. And yes, I can see the data created, and that's about it. So we have successfully prepared the data, not prepared, prepared the data, created the data set, stored the data, created a table, and loaded the data into the table, right? So we have completed the first 5 steps. The next step now is the part where you're going to use SQL queries to create the machine learning model, to register the model in Vertex AI, and to use the model that you just created and predict using the model that you just created. And also, that's about it. You can also evaluate, but we won't run the evaluate query right now. You can, but I just want to save time. We have less time, right? So I also want to show how to do AutoML using Vertex AI. So I'm just going to skip a few things and just do one important thing. I'm going to tell you how to use SQL query to create your model. So how do we do that? For that, you have to use this create or replace model query. I'm going to copy this directly from the code lab, step number 6. So I'll have to make a few edits, but that's fine. So should you create a model? So what I would recommend for you is you don't have to create this model. You can just watch this particular step. Or if you want to create a model, it's fine. It'll take a few minutes, yeah, it'll take some minutes for this to complete. But you can still do it. This part is fine. The part which is not fine is when we do auto ML. I don't want you to do that training step. Okay. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste it here and remove the unwanted part because I edited the data in the CSV. So we don't have any such data. So I'll remove the where clause here. So this is the code that we are going to, the SQL that we're going to run. Create or replace model. Movies is your dataset name. Movies underscore score underscore model is the name that you're giving to your model. And in the options section, we are mentioning that the model type is logistic regression because we decided it's going to be a classification model. So we chose logistic regression. And we are saying auto class weights equal to true. This particular thing means the balancing between the class labels, which is the training data, right? So that needs to be balanced. That's what we are saying. By default, the training data is unweighted. But if the labels in the training data are imbalanced, model might learn to predict based on the bias that you have created in the data, right? So you don't want to create that bias in the data. So we want the model to automatically assign class weights. And then the next one is the select query. The select query in this is a subquery. This is where we are telling the telling the BigQuery that in order to fetch training data, use this table, movies underscore score in the data set movies. And when I say except ID comma data cat, I'm saying exclude these two fields from training data. These are not important for me for training. So ignore these. Don't use this for training. That's what I'm saying. Right. So I'm going to run this particular code, not in the BQ command this time. I'm going to run it in the BigQuery console query editor. So I'm just going to paste this also to you. But before that, let me fix there is a quote error here for some reason. I'll just fix that and send it to you. Yeah, it's running for me. I'm going to send this here in the chat as well. I just cancelled mine because I have already ran this particular query and I have an existing query and we cannot cover the remaining steps if we wait for the model creation to complete. So I want to move on. So I'm going to use the model that I created using the same query previously. All right. So once the model is complete, you will have the opportunity to view the results of the model. So how you will do that is you will go to your same data set that you just created. And once the model is complete, you should see that in the models section. So you expand models. Here you see the model that we just created. Once it's created, you should see the schema tab, and the schema tab will tell you what labels and what features are there. So what is label? Label is your target variable, the field that you are predicting. And features, this is your set of input variables, and this contains the fields that are independent, and these are the fields that will help you determine the predicted score, right? So this is what you need to validate, or you can check here once the model is created. Right? You can also see what the model's evaluation is. You can also get the same result using a query, but you might as well just see here. And if you're happy with it, you can move on with the next step, which is actually using the model that you created and predicting, inferring values for new data from the model that you created. So for that, you copy the select query. This is also straightforward. It's a simple select query. I'll paste it here and I'll show you what it looks like. Select star from ml.predict. So this is the construct we are using in order to predict the score for the movie. And in the in the query parameters, we are going to pass model, which is a keyword, and the name of the model. In this case, the model dataset name dot model name that we created. And then in the subquery, the second parameter is the subquery, which actually fetches your prediction data. For instance, if you want to predict for a brand new movie or any movie which you have stored in another table, or if you have stored in the same table under a different category type, under a different section, which you can filter, then filter that and use it as a subquery to fetch your testing data. All right. In this case, I don't have a specific testing data table, so I'm going to randomly pick one record from the same table and I'm going to limit it to one and run this. Okay, because I just want to predict for one movie. So once it runs, you can see that the predicted score for the movie Charlie's Angels is 5. That's it. So we have created a model only using a query, and we have evaluated the results, and I've used the same model to predict for a random movie, and I've got the prediction result. That's about it. That's how simple it is to create a model and to infer using the model you created. Now, I told you that you can actually, now that the model is ready, you may think, okay, how will I productionize it? How will I put it in an application and give a face to it? How will I get an end-to-end application where I can use, where I can actually make some use out of this model that I've created? So that is where you have to use this deploy, one click deploy to Vertex AI model registry. So what this means is the model you have created will be deployed in Vertex AI registry using one single construct in the same query that you used for create or replace model. So while you're creating the model, you have to mention that the model needs to be stored in model registry. Once you mention that, that's it. Your model will be deployed directly in Vertex AI. So how will you know that? I've already ran this query, so I'm not going to run it now, and I don't want you to run this now as well. You can stop here. You don't have to, for this particular exercise, you don't have to do any further changes. Okay. So I'll show you what Vertex AI looks like. So I'm going to open another tab, console.cloud.google.com. I'll go to Vertex AI. So just search for Vertex AI and it will open Vertex AI console. If you have not already enabled the API, it will ask you to do enable it, but it will ask you to enable all APIs. Don't do that. Enable only Vertex AI API. Okay. See all endpoints. I'll show you. No, no, not endpoint. Sorry. Where is the API part? It will ask you to enable the APIs. It's no, yeah, show API list. So don't enable all the APIs, just enable Vertex AI API. Okay, so that's what we need at the moment. Once you enable that, you should be able to go to training right here, or you can also, in the search bar, you can also go to Vertex AI model registry. Click that and open Vertex AI model registry. If it asks you to enable the API, please do that. Once you open model registry, scroll down and you can see imported. In your thing, you won't be able to see because you have not run that query. But I have run this query previously, and I have imported the model that I created in BigQuery into Vertex AI using that simple construct and SQL, these two lines in the same create or replace model query, and my model automatically appears here in Vertex AI. Now, how will I deploy it? I'll open the model registry entry, and I'll open the most recent version. I probably registered it 3 times, so I'll open the most recent version, and I will go to deploy and test and click deploy to endpoint. And I provide the configuration information to it, and it'll automatically get deployed to the endpoint. And I can use this endpoint just like you would use any HTTPS uh, REST API. You can use the same thing. You can use this URL that you get, or the code that you get after deploying your endpoint, after deploying your model. You can use that in your user interface or your client application or anywhere that you're using this model. So I'll show you a demonstration of a simple client application that we built for one of the demos in the past when I built this whole application. So for this, we used the model that I just created in BigQuery, and the BigQuery ML application that I created was deployed in Vertex AI, and I took the REST endpoint from there and I used it in the button click of this particular application. So on clicking get score, it will behind the scenes it will trigger the model that I have created. In this case, it will trigger a cloud functions, but typically it will. You can also directly invoke your REST endpoint, the model's REST endpoint. In this case, it will trigger cloud functions, and the cloud functions will in turn trigger the BQML model that I've deployed in Vertex AI registry, and it will do a few more steps. That's why I wrote the cloud functions itself, but that's not relevant now. All I'm trying to say is, if you load all the data, you should see the get score button enabled, and once the button is enabled, once I click the button, it triggers the endpoint that I just deployed. So that's about it. That's how you get your query based application into um, production or into an application that you can actually demonstrate. All right. So it's taking a bit of time. Once it loads, I'll show you the result. But before that, I also told you that I'll tell you how to take the data from BigQuery instead of using queries. If you also don't want to write even queries, you want to use AutoML. So you're asking me, how will I use AutoML? How will I use Vertex AI to build this model without writing any queries also? So I'll show you that. So for that, we will use the same use case, movie rating prediction. Why? Because I've already loaded the data. You know that BigQuery is a data source where we have already created the data set, created the table, and loaded the data into the table. So my data is ready to go. All I have to do is go to Vertex AI, go to data sets, import the data directly from BigQuery, and use that data to create an AutoML model. And once the model creation is complete, you can use it. You can deploy it and use that as a REST endpoint for your application, the same way I showed you now, the backend part, right? For model registry from BigQuery. Same thing you can do with Vertex AI as well. So I'll just show you the parts before training, because you don't have to train right now. I'll show you how to train, but you don't have to train right now. You can follow these steps though, right? So in Vertex AI, in Google Cloud Console, in the search bar, search for Vertex AI and enable the API. And once you enable, it should land you on the console. And once you have the console on the left side, you should see the Vertex AI Explorer tools, Gen AI, data, and all that. Under data, you should see data sets. So click data sets. And once you see the data sets landing page, you should see create button. So click that. Once I click that, it'll ask for dataset name. So I'm going to give H4B dataset underscore dataset or whatever you want to give. And the data type. So in this case, is it an image? No. Is it tabular? Yes, because of course you might be confused between tabular and text. It is text data, but and it's not video, it's not image, it is text data, but it's not a file, it's not a text file. You're using data that is stored in BigQuery in the form of tables, in the form of rows and columns. So your data type is tabular. So click tabular. And objective. We already decided the objective of the problem is a classification machine learning application. So I'm choosing regression slash classification. And a region, it has to be the same region that you used for your data set. So I'll keep it as US-Central 1 and then click create. For now, I'm not opening the advanced options. So once it creates the data set, you should be able to select a data source. So this data set is Vertex AI data set. It's not the BigQuery data set, right? Now data sources, we already established the fact that the table is created in BigQuery and data is loaded into that. So option 3, which is select a table or view from BigQuery. So BigQuery path, click browse and search for the movies data set that you just created and movies underscore score table. Select that. Once it's ready, click continue. This is all in Vertex AI. This is going on in Vertex AI. We linked the data set to the data that is coming in from BigQuery table. And that's it. The data set is being created in Vertex AI as well. You can see the column distribution here, summary. And on the right side, you see train new model. So if I click train new model and select other, this is where we're actually setting up the training, right? Objective is classification, that's already established. And I already told you, we are not writing custom training, we are doing AutoML. Custom training is where you write your own Python script or your own code and run it in TensorFlow. Run your TensorFlow code and upload it here. So that is what you'll do in custom. That's not what we are doing right now. We are doing in AutoML. So hit continue. All right, target column, I already said we are calculating the score. So that's the target. That is the prediction that we're going to make. I'm not going to change anything else for now. I'll just do continue. Feature store and entity type, this you will not see. And then the last part is just see all the columns and everything. And if you want to change your optimization objective, you can also do that. You can also specify a column and you can give weightage to that if you want, or if you can just leave it like that by default, because by default it will take it as equal weight. Unless you want to give more weight to a specific feature, you can just leave it like that and click continue. And the last is budget. So this is where it is asking for maximum node hours. So it is actually the number of hours you want to spend, you want your model to spend training, right? So I would typically ask you to do it just for one if it's for experimental use case. or for your hackathon, and enable early stopping, because if the model completes training before 1 hour, let it complete, right? In some cases, it is possible that it goes beyond 1 hour, but you won't, if you specified the maximum node hour as one, it won't charge you for more. It will take those additional hours to do all the housekeeping tasks, to prepare, to close whatever it was doing. So all those things. So don't think if it says one node hours and it's spent 2.5 hours in training, don't think that you'll be charged for 2.5 hours. You'll be charged for the maximum node hours that you're setting right here. But that doesn't mean it will train for 2.5 hours, right? It will only train for 1 hour. The other time, the other hours are required for it to settle down and do all the housekeeping activities, right? And then click start training. That's it. This will take a few hours or minutes, depending on the size, the distribution, and other things of your data. And once it's complete, you will get notified. You can also come here and under the training section. You don't want to do the training right now, you can actually save the $5 credit for your hackathon services or whatever you're going to use for. But I'm just saying, once you complete a training, you under the training section, you should be seeing your training listed here. And once you open that particular training, you should be able to see the evaluation part, like we saw in the BigQuery registry registered model, right? Same thing. You'll have evaluate here. You'll have deploy and test, batch predict, and version details. So if you hit deploy and test, you have a deploy to endpoint button. You click that, and you should be able to provide the details that are required. Remember one thing though, let me give a sample endpoint here. This will come up when you're actually trying to deploy your model, Vertex AI model, if you're using it in your hackathon. There is one thing that you should not forget, which is, where is it? Create new endpoint, encryption key, model settings. Everything is fine. For some reason it's not showing up. There is a thing that you will have to enable when you're deploying it to endpoint. You have to enable, there is a thing it will ask to enable. I think, what is it called? I don't know why it's not showing up right now. It will ask you to enable if the model needs to be available for explanation. Yeah, explanation. Why is explanation required? Because, for instance, if you have a prediction result of for a movie, say a movie ABC has been rated as 6, explain why it is a 6. What features made it a 6, gave it a score as 6. So that is what is called as explainability, and you have to enable that in order to test your model, right? So it is currently, this setting is wrong, whatever I use, but typically you should be able to deploy your endpoint. This is an incorrect model that I use just for demonstration purposes, but I have other models which are deployed to the respective endpoint, so I can show you one of those things that are already deployed, right? So I open right here. You should be able to see the configuration and how it looks and how you will actually use it in your code. Deploy, and I'll click this endpoint. I'll go to deploy and test, and I'll open one endpoint. Sample request. So this is how you'll actually use it in your code. You can also use the same thing in your command shell, and you should be able to see the result for your deployed endpoint. So I've already deployed this. If I run this from my command shell, I should be able to get the results. So that is what I wanted to cover. But besides that, there's one other thing, which is cloud functions. I'll just take 5 minutes to explain cloud functions and Cloud Run hands-on, so you can actually deploy your full stack application or one-page application, or consume the model that you have deployed using Vertex AI and BigQuery. Vertex AI registry in your application, right? So for that, you will need, at some point, you will need some kind of serverless compute methods. So I'm going to show you what cloud functions and Cloud Run looks like, and look like, and then you can make your choice. Whatever we did here is still pending. I'll do load random movie. It's loaded. So this is the UI that I showed you. So this UI is actually built and deployed serverlessly on Cloud Run. I'll show you how to deploy an application in Cloud Run, and then you click get score. This is triggering the API, the endpoint that we deployed for the model that we created using BigQuery and Vertex AI. Right. So this random movie that got loaded here, the score for it is 7 out of 10. This is just a sample user interface we built on top of the application to showcase how to put the pieces together, right? So now going back to console, I'll quickly show you how to go to cloud functions and show a sample cloud functions, and then I'll also show you what Cloud Run looks like. So search for cloud functions in your search bar and select that from the option. In your case, if the API is not enabled, it'll ask you to enable it. So go ahead and do that. It's a click of a button. Once that is done, you should see this console and you won't see any list if it's the first time you're using Cloud Function. Hit create function. And once you click that, choose second gen because that's the most recent supported version. And function name, provide the function name that you want. I'll say H4B, ML deploy. Okay. Not ML deploy, let's just say app deploy. It can be anything, or I'll just say deploy. And then authentication, I'll do allow unauthenticated invocation for now because we want to use it as a public API just for demonstration purposes. And it's HTTPS, of course. And then I'll do next, leaving everything else to default. And the runtime, choose whatever your language of choice is, whether it's .NET, Go, Java, Node, PHP, Python, whichever one you want. I'm going to choose Java 11, right? And inline editor, leave it as that. You can also have your code, write your code in your local, upload it to cloud storage, and also use it from there. But I'm going to use the inline editor, which means you can edit the code from here. So if you choose Java, you'll see the source files here. If you choose Python, you will see the source and you'll also see the dependencies text file as well. In Java, for Java, you'll see pom.xml for the dependencies. So this is just hello world. I'll just do from H4B, Hack4Bengal, and well deploy. So this is where your code goes. I'm just writing a sample one, just hello world one. It's deploying. Once it deploys, you should be able to see the link generated right here. It's still creating the build. But once it's complete, you should see a green check mark. And once it's green, you can click this URL and see the result on your browser. If it is authenticated, you wouldn't be able to see that in your browser. In this case, I've kept it open and authenticated. So it will show the result in my browser, right? So let's wait for it to complete. While it's creating the build, I'll also show you what Cloud Run looks like. So go to Cloud Console in the search bar, search for Cloud Run, open that. So this was simple. Cloud Functions and Cloud Run are both serverless options. Why? What is serverless? Serverless doesn't mean there is no server. It means you don't have to monitor, you don't have to manage the servers for your desktop or client applications or any application for that matter. So any code that, let's say you're writing a one-page Python script or a one-page Java application or a Node application or anything of that sort, and you want to deploy it somewhere so other people can access it or any other application can consume it, right? So how will you do that? In old days, before cloud or before serverless world, you would have deployed, maintained a server for it, had compute running, and then deployed your application on deployed an application server and deployed your application on top of it. But with serverless, you don't want to do any of those things. All you have to do is write your code and click deploy. Write your code and build it and deploy. Write your code, containerize it, and deploy. That's it. All in single commands. It will automatically push your code and roll it out as an application on Google Cloud. So that's what we have done right now. I've written a simple Hello World Java program without much dependencies. And I'm just running that, and that's it. It got a green check mark, and I've already deployed my application on cloud. I click that, and it says hello world from H4B. Now anybody can access it. If I click this and give this in chat, you can also click this URL and see the result, right? Because it's on cloud. I'm not going to give this to you right now, but I'm just saying you can access it. That's the benefit of it. But why? What is the difference between Cloud Run and Cloud Functions? Both are serverless options, and both have their own advantages. Cloud. Imagine to put it simple. In the interest of time, I would say if it's a big application where you're doing like client server architecture, where you have model view controllers and all that, and you're having a full stack application in place with ORMs and other this and that, a user interface and a server, REST APIs and all that, then it's probably the best idea to containerize it and use Cloud Run to deploy your application. Whereas in the case of things like this, where I have a one page application where I'm just saying hello world or printing something or doing some backend update on my BigQuery data that I've just stored. What if I want to predict using, like in this application that you just saw, right? The UI that I showed you. Not only am I using the REST endpoint of the model that I deployed, but after deploying that, I'm also writing the data back to the source, which is BigQuery, in order to retrain the model with the new data, right? So that is why I'm using, but it's not a complex client server architecture. So I'm directly using cloud functions for that particular piece of code. But the entire application itself is a big client server application for that matter, as compared to that one page application which invokes the REST endpoints, right? So this big user interface and client server application will was containerized, and that containerized image was then deployed in Cloud Run. So that's the difference. So if you want to deploy something quick, something monotonous, something like a backend application, use Cloud Functions. For a full-fledged full stack application, containerize it and deploy it in Cloud Run. For Cloud Functions, you don't containerize it. You just write your code, upload it, and deploy. But for Cloud Run, you write your code, containerize it, and then deploy. Now, how do I containerize it? There are multiple methods. You can use Docker files. If it's Java, you have a utility, open source utility that was open source for public good by Google. It's called Jib, and you can use Jib directly for containerizing your Java applications. That is only using a single command in Cloud Shell. So that's as simple as that. So if you're interested, there are more code labs around that. But for now, you know what you can use in your hackathon, and I'll stop here to see if there are questions. I know that we are right at time, but I want to stop and see if there are questions. Avik has asked about free credits. Tushar, you can send the credits link, which they can use for the hackathon. I can send it again. Any other question, Tushar?
No, that's all that we have as of now. And I have already shared the link, not only in the comment section, but we have also shared with people because many people were asking in the offline to the mentors and all regarding the GCP credits. So we have shared them at the lab itself.
Can you tell me how many people have joined in the session?
Actually, we cannot tell actually how many people have joined. The reason behind is because this session is like is now going live on the on different labs. It's been streaming live. That's the reason all the people are watching it, and of course, not all, but whoever wants it are implementing it in the project.
The reason I'm
So yeah,
asking is
uh,
there is a limit on the number of credits, free credits that are available in the link. So I want to know how many people have consumed it because I should tell you beyond which you cannot use at some point. So I
okay,
want to
got
know
it.
the number. If there is a chance that you can get that number, it'll be great in the next few
Sure, sure,
minutes.
sure. Yeah. Okay. So we have to just kindly give us few minutes after
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
talking with the participants and getting the number. We will reach out to you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Please share all the code labs so they can use it in your hackathon. And if there is any question, if there is any service that they need information on, please ask them to. They can reach me in my socials. You can
Sure,
always ping during
sure,
this hackathon time.
sure. Yeah. So that was a great session. Thanks a lot for coming on board and helping the students in this hackathon. And
Here,
moving
my link
forward,
my socials here.
yeah, yeah,
I don't. I'm
sure.
not able to type in
You
that.
can provide.
It's abirami.dev. ABIRAMI.dev. Here, I pinged finally. It's not loading.
You share in the chat.
Yes. It's in the
Okay,
chat.
yeah,
I
got
just
it.
pasted it in the chat.
Yeah, so folks, this is the links as you can see. You can connect to the speaker anytime if you want. If you have any queries, you can reach out to her. I'm sharing the link in the comment section. And all these links, all these code labs and the documentation link, the GCP credit, all will be shared to you also in the Discord server and through mail. That is valid only till the hackathon time. Yeah,
Cool. I hope it was
yeah.
useful,
So I've
Tushar.
seen. Yeah, it was a great session. Thanks a lot. And once again, thanks to GTG Cloud Kolkata. They are our track partner for sponsoring us in our initiative. Hack the best use of cloud. First team 10,000, second team 7,500. And also there is a separate track for girls best team 7,500. We hope that people make beautiful kind of projects and they should approach these kinds of different tracks.
And also the best use of cloud that I'm interested in as well. So from my end, from from Google Cloud side, I can say that the best use of Google Cloud will be identified. I think Anubhav was also talking to the organizers about it. I'll work closely with them to get their implementation published in Google Cloud resources, in Google Cloud blog and Code Labs, if that's something they are interested in. So they'll get the honors for that as well. So I wanted to let everyone know.
Yeah, that's another great opportunity for each and every participant. Now, moving on, this is our Hack4Bengal Android application. If you haven't downloaded yet, you can scan the QR code. It's a very beautiful app available on the Android store. Do download it. You will get each and every information, each and every notification on our app. And all the links will be shared with the comment section also. And so, yeah, the hackathon is going on. More hours left. So, yeah, see you in the next session. Happy hacking. Thank you,
Thank
everyone,
you.
for the support and for the session.
Of course. Bye.